sure you've heard of the phrase silver spoon. Someone born into wealth with life handed to them on a plate. That's the first thing people think of when they hear Eddie Hearn's name. His father, Barry Hearn, was a giant in the sports world, a king of promotion dominating snooker, darts and boxing, which meant the assumption was Eddie's life was going to be easy and smooth sailing. This isn't a story of inheritance, it's a story of struggle, born into a shadow, a full-blown legacy that weighs heavy with expectations. Eddie wasn't looking to just live in his father's world. He had to carve his own path, build his own name, and earn his own respect. Breaking free from that kind of shadow, it's like racing a ghost. It's always there, right on your heels. But Eddie took risks and built a brand that redefined boxing promotion for a new generation. This is the story of Eddie Hearn, a man who turned his father's legacy into the springboard for his own. Not by riding the wave, but by building a wave of his own. Imagine being born into a family where your father is successful, a giant in his field. That was Eddie Hearn's reality. Growing up as the son of Barry Hearn, a man who shaped entire industries like snooker, darts and boxing, Barry's name carried weight, and Eddie couldn't escape it. He wasn't excelling in school or on the sports field, unlike his classmate Frank Lampard. Eddie was torn between wanting to stand out and the distractions his name brought. Even though I had everything I wanted, it made it more difficult because Barry Hearn was my old man. Eddie's father, Barry, wasn't one to go easy on him. When they played cricket, Barry didn't hold back. It was a challenge, not a father-son game. This was Barry's lesson. Life doesn't hand you anything, not even from those who love you most. Every time with that fell, from the first time we played together, my dad would bowl at full tilt. He never eased me into the game. Eddie struggled academically. He wasn't a standout student, and with his average grades, he ended up at Haven Sixth Form College in Romford. It wasn't an elite school. It was filled with kids who were just as uncertain as Eddie, all trying to find their way. With my average grades, the only place we could find was Haven Sixth Form College in Romford. One day, a teacher's indifference gave Eddie a wake-up call. Instead of offering advice or motivational speech, the teacher paid him no attention. Eddie realized that no one would care if he succeeded or failed. His name and fame meant nothing unless he made something out of himself. I had expected him to say that eventually parents would be called in or something like that. Instead, he shrugged and shook his head. It was a lesson. No one was going to lift him up unless he did it himself. Even his father didn't make things easy. Every day was a test of character and willpower. I always felt that no matter what I achieved, I was always going to be Barry Hearn's son. Eddie tried to rebel, growing his hair, piercing his ear, but none of it helped him escape his father's shadow. The lessons from Barry stuck with him. Nothing is handed to you, not success, not respect, you have to earn it. I pierced my ear, grew my hair long, and I tried to rebel, but none of it changed the fact that I was still Barry Hearn's son. Growing up in the Hearn household was about survival, mentally and emotionally. Eddie learned early on that success wasn't guaranteed, even for him. Dad always said, you've got to earn it. Nothing is ever handed to you, son. You want respect? Go out and get it. Being born into privilege doesn't guarantee you success, and it certainly doesn't give you a free pass in life. No matter how comfortable your starting point is, the real battle is finding your way, earning respect on your terms. The world might see your last name, but it's up to you to prove your worth. You've got to step out from the shadows and put in the work. For Eddie, that meant overcoming the pressure of being Barry Hearn's son and showing that success isn't inherited, it's earned. Eddie left school and was ready to take on the world, but things didn't go according to plan. He was always seen as Barry Hearn's son. Eddie knew if he was going to make something of himself, it had to be on his own terms. He was determined to carve his own path. But reality had set in. Despite his name and connections, no one handed him anything. Rejections, they were piling up. Employers told him, you've got no experience. So he took whatever job he could get. Telesales, cold calling, selling windows. It was a grind, but Eddie was determined to prove himself. I badly wanted to prove to my dad that I could make it. I found joy in working through the challenge in possibly the toughest task of all, telesales. Telesales was brutal, constant hang-ups, rejection, but Eddie didn't quit. He let the rejection fuel him. Each rejection became fuel for my success. After weeks of struggle, he found his rhythm, slowing down, letting conversations flow. He finally made his first sale. That first victory sparked something in him. But telesales wasn't where Eddie wanted to be. An opportunity presented itself in sports sponsorship. He managed golfers on the European Tour, his first taste of managing athletes. But golf didn't quite ignite the passion he was looking for. Always looking for something bigger, Eddie's attention shifted to poker, which was thriving at the time. He thrived on its energy. Big tournaments, high stakes. I spent a year working hard to promote golfers for the LEA. Now I set my sights on poker. It seemed like a limitless opportunity. While at a poker event, Olympic gold medalist Audley Harrison came pleading for an opportunity. His career was struggling, and he needed a promoter. Eddie wasn't focused on boxing, but he saw the opportunity. Barry advised against it. If you want to take on Audley, then be my guest, but you're on your own. Eddie took the plunge, his big move, the prize fighter series, where a fighter would have to fight and win 3 consecutive bouts in one night to be crowned the winner of the prize fighter series. It was bold, risky, and it worked. Audley Harrison fought 3 times in one night and won them all, which would help set up a showdown with heavyweight world champion David Haye. If you're not taking risks, you're not moving forward. Prize fighter's success wasn't just a win for Audley, it was a breakthrough for Eddie. Fighters started calling and matchroom boxing was making headway. Eddie had arrived, and this time, it wasn't because of his father. You've just taken Audley to a world title shot. If you can promote him, you can promote anyone. From telesales to boxing, Eddie was no longer proving himself, he was building something new, his own legacy. Failure isn't the end, it's fuel. Eddie's journey shows setbacks shape you. Every rejection, every dead-end job builds character. Eddie didn't let failures define him, he used them as stepping stones. The key? Carve your own lane. It's about taking risks, failing forward and proving you're capable of more. Eddie had already made waves with the prize fighter series, but he wasn't satisfied. He didn't want to just revive British boxing, he wanted to transform it. His vision? Take the sport to new heights. And it all started with a game-changing deal, the Sky Sports partnership. Eddie wasn't relying on his family's name. He needed to prove that Sky could trust him to elevate British boxing. Success isn't handed to you, it's built. Networking is about building trust. I wasn't just trying to sell them a product, I was selling them the future of British boxing. Eddie wasn't just pitching a quick deal. He was showing Sky the potential for boxing to reach new audiences, beyond just die-hard fans. It wasn't just about fights, it was about creating moments and spectacles. I knew we had to go bigger. Boxing wasn't going to survive if we kept doing things the old way. Persistence drove Eddie's career. Sky wasn't sold immediately, but his determination convinced him. He knew if he didn't secure the deal, boxing in the UK would fade. I told Sky, you invest in me, I'll make British boxing bigger than ever. It was all about proving myself. Eddie played the long game. He saw boxing not just as a sport, but as an experience that needed to cross generational and cultural boundaries. Sky Sports was the key to creating boxing events that were more than just fights. Sky Sports gave me the chance to build something huge, to create a boxing empire that would bring British boxing back to the forefront. But there was one missing piece, the star, Anthony Joshua. AJ wasn't just another fighter, he was a phenomenon, Olympic gold medalist and a natural both in and out of the ring. Eddie knew AJ was more than just the future of boxing, he was the future of sports branding. With AJ, we weren't just winning fights, we were proving that British boxing could be bigger and better than ever. Signing AJ was about building a global brand. Eddie saw AJ as the face of this new era, with ambitions that reached far beyond the UK. Under Eddie's leadership, AJ headlined events that filled Wembley Stadium with over 80,000 fans. It was a spectacle not seen since Lennox Lewis. Eddie wasn't just creating fights, he was creating unforgettable moments. Eddie didn't just react to changes in the sport, he shaped them. He saw the shift in how people consume sports and knew that streaming was the future. That's where the DAZN came in. I knew boxing was changing. And if we wanted to stay ahead, we had to be the ones leading the charge. The DAZN deal was a game changer. Boxing wasn't confined to the UK anymore, it was global. Fans worldwide could stream AJ's fights and Matchroom was at the centre of it all. Boxing's future wasn't in the past, it was in the streaming. In digital platforms, DAZN gave us the chance to take British boxing global and we grabbed it. Eddie transformed Matchroom from a local operation into a global powerhouse. He wasn't just running events, he was reshaping the sport. And with AJ, each win reinforced that Eddie wasn't just following the script, he was writing it. So what's the real takeaway? Vision is key, but execution is everything. Eddie didn't just want to bring boxing back, he wanted to elevate it to new heights no one had imagined. Success wasn't handed to him. The deals, the partnerships, and the global expansion came from relentless persistence. The lesson, success is about the grind, the determination to bring your vision to life, no matter the obstacles. Eddie redefined British boxing and showed what's possible when you bet on yourself. Eddie and Matchroom boxing was on top of the world. AJ was dominating, British boxing was thriving, and Matchroom was leading. Then 2020 hit. The pandemic shut everything down. No fights, no crowds, no income. Boxing, a sport built on live events, was frozen. For many, it felt like the end. This wasn't a time to pause, it was a time to act. Where others saw disaster, Eddie saw opportunity. Enter Fight Camp. Eddie turned the garden at Matchroom HQ into a boxing venue. No arenas, no crowds, just a ring in a garden. It was a lifeline. With the competition hiding at home, I had a blank canvas to try new things. Fight Camp wasn't just about survival, it was about showing we could innovate even under pressure. Eddie didn't just adapt, he reinvented. Drones, new camera angles. It wasn't just a fight, it was an experience. While others waited for things to return to normal, Eddie was creating a new normal. In times of crisis, people crave excitement and hope, and Eddie delivered. Fight Camp was a risk, but I knew we had to keep boxing alive. We owed it to the fans, the fighters, and the sport. We just had to innovate, not just survive. But it wasn't just about entertaining fans. It was about the fighters. For many, boxing is their livelihood. The pandemic threatened their careers. Eddie gave them a platform where they had nowhere else to turn. Fight Camp became more than just a stopgap. It was a brand, a symbol of resilience. Eddie proved that even in the darkest times, innovation is key. Fight Camp wasn't just about the fights. It was about proving that even in the toughest times, we could deliver something special. Eddie set himself apart. While others waited for things to return to normal, he adapted. He showed that success comes from leading, not waiting. Fight Camp was the solution to the major problem. We vowed to ourselves, as much as the fans, that when we came back, we'd be stronger than ever before. And that's exactly what happened. When boxing returned to packed arenas, matching was stronger. Fight Camp wasn't just a temporary fix, it was a declaration of resilience. Eddie didn't just keep boxing alive, he made it thrive. The pandemic could have been the biggest setback in his career, but instead, it became a springboard for greater success. Eddie isn't just a great promoter, he's a visionary. He doesn't react to the world, he shapes it. Crisis doesn't destroy vision, it reveals it. In tough times, true innovators don't wait for things to get better, they create a way forward. Eddie's story during the pandemic isn't just about boxing, it's about leading when everything is uncertain. The lesson, in moments of crisis, the future belongs to those who see beyond the chaos and build something new. Eddie has gone from battling with his father's shadow to redefining boxing. It's not about the fights or the athletes. It's about building something lasting. Eddie's vision goes beyond the next event. He's thinking decades ahead, laying the groundwork for a legacy that will shape boxing long into the future. Eddie's not just focused on today. Let's look at the DAZN deal. He saw the shift, streaming, global access, and changing fan habits, and he jumped on it immediately. This wasn't just about more screens, it was about reshaping boxing for a new generation. This isn't just about signing deals, it's about pushing the sport forward. Boxing can't stay stuck in the past, we've got to adapt. Eddie's not just keeping boxing relevant, he's making sure it thrives in the digital world. Fans today don't just want to pay pay-per-view, they want access, stories and experiences, and Eddie's giving them that, thinking about the next 10, 20 or even 30 years. He's building a foundation for boxing to grow, pulling in new audiences who never cared before. The DAZN deal wasn't just about money, it was about putting boxing in front of more people. If the sport is going to grow, it needs to be seen by as many people as possible. His vision isn't confined to the UK. Eddie's taking Matchroom global, Mexico, the US, Italy, Saudi Arabia. Boxing isn't just British anymore, it's a global powerhouse with Eddie at the center. Boxing is a global sport, and if we're going to be the best, we have to be everywhere. We're not just staying in the UK, we're taking over. But Eddie's legacy isn't just about deals or markets, he's thinking about the fighters, the fans, and the sport itself. He's given athletes a platform to build their own legacies. This isn't just about promoting fights, it's about building something that lasts. Eddie's helping fighters become more than just champions. He's helping them become brands, stories that live on. This isn't just about promoting fights, it's about building something that lasts for the fighters, for the fans, and for the sport. That's the legacy I'm working on. That's what sets Eddie apart. He's not just the best promoter today, he's thinking 10 steps ahead. Always looking for ways to push boxing forward, to take it places it's never been before. For Eddie, it's about impact, about shaping boxing's future and the stories it will tell. He's already proven he can innovate, take risks, and turn them into success. Now it's about cementing his legacy. The moves Eddie makes today are shaping boxing's future for years to come. Whether signing new fighters, expanding into new markets, or embracing technology, Eddie's always one step ahead, building a sport that will continue to grow. Boxing's always been about more than just sport. It's about stories, about people, and legacies. Eddie Hearn isn't just focused on the present. He's building a future, laying a foundation that will keep growing and inspiring for generations. When people look back, they won't just see a promoter. They'll see someone who changed the game and built a legacy far beyond the sport. When you're born into success, the world thinks the path is easier. But that's a different kind of burden. It's not about having a head start. It's about finding your own way and creating your own mark. Legacy isn't where you start, it's where you're headed and how you choose to get there. Eddie has shown us that with vision, relentless work, and the courage to take risks, you can turn even the smallest opportunity into something extraordinary. He didn't just continue his father's empire, he built his own, one decision at a time. But with every step forward, there's a sacrifice. And with every risk, there's a chance of failure. What matters isn't the success, it's the resilience to get back up when the odds are stacked against you. This story isn't just about boxing, it's for anyone striving to make their mark in the world. It's about taking ownership of your journey, embracing the hard work, and keeping your eyes on the long game. Doors will close, failures will come, but if you keep pushing forward, you'll find your way. The truth is, the greatest victories don't come from easy paths. They come from the struggles, the moments when everything seems to fall apart and you still find a way, you push through. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. So ask yourself, are you willing to outwork everyone? Take risks, even when the outcome is uncertain, because that's where greatness is born. Whether you're stepping out of someone's shadow or building something entirely new, the blueprint is clear: resilience, innovation, and never settling for second best. Thanks for tuning in. Wherever you are in your journey, keep pushing, keep innovating, and keep your eyes on the bigger picture. And remember, your story is still being written. Make it one worth telling.